Hey Mason,
Yeah.
why have we been gone for like 2 whole months without updating or posting a video or doing anything at all?
I have no idea. I think it's because, I don't know, maybe we're just a bunch of edgy teenagers who still have to go to school
Yeah,
and all that.
we're still in school. We're still like learning things. We haven't figured it all out. Why are you listening to our opinions? Go somewhere else. Leave
Why
this.
are you, listening to two guys in an amateurish podcast that scream about rock music?
Yeah, and when we use the word amateurish.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
So we have a whole lot of updates. So the biggest one is my voice. It's pretty scuffed. You'll notice I'm suckling on a cough drop
I think you're gonna be hearing that a lot.
because I stayed up till like 1 a.m. last night screaming at my computer
Because of course you did.
playing Pokemon Showdown.
Because of course.
The new Pokemon game came out, and I've been obsessed with that. And we actually did try to get an episode out before this. We tried to get the band.
Yeah, but of course you had to, stay up until, 2 in the morning, and you're all sleep deprived and everything.
Yeah.
And of course my script had to be deleted from my computer after I was, halfway done with it.
We tried to get the script for this. By the way, this is Smashing Pumpkins. We were going to do something cheeky, but no, this is Smashing Pumpkins. You read the title. Shut up, Nail.
So the Smashing Pumpkins, right? This is a band that's been around since, the early 90s, like almost any other band that we've covered so far.
Mason, we're not even done updating the people.
Oh, yeah.
Guess what? We learned something awesome. YouTube's getting sued.
Oh, yeah, the whole Kappa thing.
That's gonna be fun. So, either A, we're adult content, and remember how we were trying to, not cuss? Well, we need to do that now, or else we'll kinda get screwed.
We can't say any no-no words. Uh-oh.
Mason, what is your favorite, curse word? Mine is going to be, probably shit. Shit's a good word. That's pretty good.
How about clusterfuck?
Oh, ooh, that's spicy. That's 2 words. That's several. Multiple, even.
And also, I've also heard that a lot of content from YouTube is just going to be completely wiped out for no reason. Just purged.
Remember?
Mainly because they're doing an update starting on December 10th where they're just going to delete any channel that does not make money because they need money to have more servers up for all of the videos. So what we're going to do is that once we're done with recording this, we are going to...
Spotify!
Yeah, we're going to make a new Spotify account. Look at the description once it happens.
The whole 2 people that watch us can go on our Spotify account.
And listen to our episodes without having to be on a computer, or without having to, keep your phone on the entire time.
Yeah, you can just sit back, relax, and then not relax because you get mad at my opinions. You get mad at Mason's rambling. It's perfect.
I know, right? It's like torture, but it was your own decision.
It's torture. It's like CBT.
I even thought that we were gonna start talking about the Smashing Pumpkins already.
Smashing Pumpkins. Yeah, my favorite band. It's great. Well, besides that, the only other reason we haven't posted is because I've been playing Pokemon too much.
You already said that, but whatever.
Please, everybody, go buy Pokemon Sword and Shield and fight me on GTS. I will actually kick your ass. But besides that, let's actually get into the main point, because the boomers that are watching this, that actually listen to Smashing Pumpkins, do not want to hear about us ramble about life problems.
Smashing Pumpkins is more of a Gen X thing.
Whatever. Okay. Smashing Pumpkins. They're a great band. I hated them at first. I just really disliked them.
For some reason, I thought it was a good idea to, have Kyle listen to something from Gish, which is not an accessible album at all. At all.
He showed me Gish, and I'm like, wow, this is garbage. I didn't like the nasally vocals of my man, Billy. And he did not impress. The guitar work did not impress. The whole thing was just not impressive. Didn't like it. And then, I think in the Pearl Jam episode, which you shouldn't watch, because I was very negative in that episode.
No, you can watch it, whatever. It's fine. It's your decision after all. Kyle's just embarrassed.
I am embarrassed. I ragged on Mason for liking Melancholy, even though I never listened to it. And when I finally did, I was very impressed. I actually got reintroduced to Smashing Pumpkins through Cherub Rock. I listened to that song, I'm like, dang, that's good. What is this? And they said, Smashing Pumpkins. And I'm like, wow, okay, what album is this? Why did Mason not show me this? Why did he show me just trash?
I'm a very chronological person, Kyle, okay? You have to understand that.
I listen to these very out of order. But I listened to all of Siamese Dream, and I'm like, okay, this is good. What else do they have? And Melancholy absolutely rocked my socks off. Or, in new YouTube lingo, so we don't get labeled as a kids channel, it rocked my cock off. It was great. Definitely one of my favorite albums of all time. And
I was surprised when I heard that Kyle's opinion changed like that quickly.
we're not starting on Melancholy, obviously. We're gonna start on Gish.
Their first album from 1991. Now this one right here, I wouldn't really say is their best album. Like, in my opinion, like I see a lot of lists saying like, oh, Gish is like their fourth or third best. I wouldn't really call it that good. It's not bad or good, it's just kind of in the middle for me.
It's like Zeitgeist quality.
Zeitgeist isn't bad, but we'll get to that later. So, Gish has to be just one of those albums that you don't really think is that accessible for a newcomer, obviously. And that's because Gish has more of a psychedelic nature to it. Like, they're trying to really have that, like, weird, trippy emotion to it.
Hold up, Mason, I've got to crinkle this bag real loud, because I want snacks. Listen to that, audience. Oh, yeah.
ASMR. Anyway, back to Gish. And even though Kyle really doesn't like this album,
I really don't.
I think it's a decent starting point for this band.
I don't think it's a decent starting point for this band.
But I do have to be honest. I think this has to be my least favorite album from, like, their original lineup.
Yeah.
And from the original lineup, I mean, like, from Gish to Machina Part 2. Like, their
thing?
Yeah. I think this is, like, their worst one in their original lineup, because I think it has to do with the fact that it's not as experimental as their later work. It's not as, like, I wouldn't really say not catchy, because there are some songs that are pretty catchy. And pretty headbanging.
Let's talk about the songs. I will say, Gish may suck, but it had a couple bangers. Siva, and that's it.
You only like Siva and that's it?
Yeah.
No. There are a few songs that I like. There's I Am One, there's Rhinoceros, Bury Me, Tristessa, whatever that means. And another thing that I want to talk about this album is that this is one of those albums where it doesn't really have that one song that everybody knows about from that album, or that one single that everybody sings along to. No, it's more of like every single song has like the same amount of importance.
Yeah.
Know? Like, there's not like, oh, these are the songs that are like the most popular.
Which is the opposite of the lineup later, because the next couple albums it's the one that says rat in a cage. Oh, it's the one that says today's the greatest.
you know that like there are boomers who are like looking up, okay, what is that rat in a cage song that my son keeps singing? like seriously, if you like type in rat in a cage, you'll see that on there on like the search bar thing. It's hilarious.
Dead ass. It's like when Mason tried to search up H when he first heard it.
Yeah, like
I don't mind song.
Yeah, Google. Even though you're kind of a bunch of jerks, you are pretty helpful.
Okay, now I'm ready to embarrass myself. When I first listened to Butterfly Wings, I didn't think it said rat in a cage.
What did it say?
I thought it said ready to cage, and I was very confused. So, yeah, my dumbass. Mason isn't the only dumbass here. I've got quite a bit of dumbass in me as well.
So, back to Gish. I don't know why we keep getting like off topic when it comes
Because
to like
Gish
albums.
is so forgettable, and all the other albums are so not.
But let me talk about my favorite tracks from here. And the first track that I want to talk about is the lead single "I Am One." And this one right here, the thing about Smashing Pumpkins is that whenever they release a lead single, well, at least like after Melancholy, they usually want to have the lead single as being like the second catchiest, or like a song that's really not as accessible as like other songs in the album, because so they want to really surprise listeners when they listen to the full album. And I Am One is a good example of that. And this one is a pretty straightforward rock album and has a lot of like guitar solos, and it even has like it's basically your typical startup point.
This is
typical
the album that put them on the map.
Your opening track.
This is the album in general that put the Smashing Pumpkins on the map. They set them up so that the next two albums could knock them down.
Well, I wouldn't really say that's like their breakthrough record, but still, it had moderate success, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Siva is another one.
It's good.
Yeah, it's a pretty good song. Like, it starts out pretty heavy before the bridge takes a break from the heaviness to kind of slow down the tempo in the midsection, which is something that we'll do a lot in later releases, and then it just kind of jumps back into action.
They're very experimental band. I'll give them that. Oh, yeah.
They definitely are.
Hear the ASMR of my can.
Alright, we get it, Cole. And then there is Rhinoceros. It is one of those more progressive songs, and it gets a lot more louder and in your face as the song plays out. I mean, yeah, some of the lyrics on this song get a little bit repetitive, especially on the chorus. She knows. Like, what does she know about? Who is she? Is she...
Well, who is she? What does she know? Who is this? I mean, it's not as repetitive as some of the tracks in Oceania, but it can get pretty repetitive, I'm not gonna lie.
Like, are you talking about Darcy?
Yeah.
Like, is that what she knows about? Is that who she is? Is that Darcy? I believe she is the bassist, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she was the bassist at this time.
Yeah. And next up we have Bury Me. And I think this has to have, like, the best guitar solos in the entire album. Especially during that middle section. Like, it fucking slaps, okay? It's great.
I disagree. I do not like the song.
I think it's because this was back when they were trying to be, like, the next big grunge band. You know, like, when it comes to, like, their first three albums, it kind of has that grunge tinge to it.
And they needed to be alt. They need to be alt, not grunge.
But Gish, like, takes that out of the park, and it really does hit that, like, grunge kind of mood over and over and over again. And the thing about Gish is that, like, I know I'm saying that a lot, like, the thing about this or the thing about that.
That's kind of your catchphrase, my dude.
A little bit, yeah. I do agree on that. Gish, for some reason, has to be, like, the top three for everybody who has an opinion on it.
It feels dry to me.
Like, it's just one of those albums that, like, you listen to it, and in my opinion, I'm like, alright, this is a pretty good album, but once you stop listening to it, you're like, you kind of forget it until you listen to it again. And only, like, a few songs really stick with you. You know, like, I wouldn't really say that it's painful to listen to, more like, you only remember those songs when you're listening to it, you know?
And the rest of the Smashing Pumpkins lineup, when it hits you, it hits you. Those songs will stick for a long time. Yeah. I'm still thinking about some songs from Melancholy, which we will get to eventually.
And another fun fact is, I had no idea what Gish even, like, meant. What does Gish mean? Were they just trying to be, like, quirky or what?
It was a boss in the Binding of Isaac. I know that.
Binding of Isaac was 2011. Anyway, I think Gish was from a name of an actress during, like, I believe the 1920s, named Lillian Gish, who was a very famous actress back in the 1920s, back when they made a lot of silent films. So there's that.
Gish can also mean a slooshing sound of black sludge.
What?
Yes.
Wow.
Ah.
Is that a JoJo thing?
It is not a JoJo thing.
Because JoJo has a lot of, like, weird sound effects, like taco, or something.
No, it is not an anime thing. That was a Binding of Isaac thing.
Also, I think you told me that you didn't like the cover art for this album.
Really lazy.
I mean, like, the reissue is basically just the same cover art, but, like, purple, and that's it.
Hey, look, we're in a marble, guys.
Remember, that reminds me of that one famous painting, you know, the guy that's, like, holding up the fushigi ball?
Yeah.
Remember those? The fushigi ball? It looks like they're in that.
It does look like they're
magical ball, whoa! I actually bought that once, and then I tried it, and it kinda sucks.
Oh, yeah.
I actually bought one of those.
Oh, I bought one of those too. They suck.
Yeah.
No, my friend Kyle G bought one of those.
Oh.
And I tried it out. And I hit myself on the head.
It's just one of those, like, dumb magic trick things.
If anyone remembers Cartoon Network commercials promoting the fushigi ball, please, tell us in the comments and tell us your experience with the fushigi ball.
So the band members are definitely into fushigi ball. So right after Gish, we have one of their most popular albums, one of their most celebrated albums.
I think one of the most overrated albums.
I wouldn't really say that's completely overrated. Is 1993's Siamese Dream. This one has to be the first album where they are, like, just solid, pure, just high-quality songs on here.
Whenever you listen to this one, you think today is the greatest day I've ever known.
Yeah. And every single song from this entire album, I really enjoy, except for one song.
Oh no.
And that's Rocket. I don't know, like, Rocket just kind of feels like a sore thumb. Like, it's like the black sheep of the whole entire album.
Do you say black sheet or black sheep?
Sheep. I know, my voice is dumb. My brain is dumb.
I don't know
why.
I didn't like Hummer.
Hummer?
No.
Why is that?
The weird noises in the beginning, and the really repetitive drum beat. And it was really just mediocre. I did not like Hummer. The rest of them are pretty good, though.
The first thing that you might notice about Siamese Dream is that it had a very, very high production compared to, like, the other early 90s alternative albums that were coming out at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And songs like Soma had elements of, like, a lot of guitar layering, up to, like, 40 overdubbed guitar parts are present in said song. Mm-hmm. Seriously, like, when they were recording Siamese Dream, they had to wait weeks on end in order to just wait for all those guitar parts to be overdubbed in those tracks. And it was kind of a mess. It was a complete disaster of a recording process. I mean, yeah, the album itself is, like, really good, but what the band members had to endure through, it was just not great.
The product was good. Not as good as, I say, some of their other albums. But I think this one definitely put them on the map. It was good.
Yeah, this was definitely, like, their breakthrough album. So, let's talk about, like, what they had to go through, since I already, like, mentioned it. The band was going through a pretty shitty time when they were recording this, because Corgan was depressed, and he always was, like, threatening himself to jump off a building when they were, like, recording it. And he dealt with writer's block. The drummer, Jimmy Chamberlain, was dealing with the increasing intake of heroin. He had to deal with that and go to, like, rehab. And James Ira and Darcy Wetsky, the guitarist and the bassist, recently ended a romantic relationship.
Sorry if the audio is a little scuffed in this video. We're really scrunched. We're recording this in my closet instead of my other closet.
Also, speaking of James Ira, does that sound familiar to you, Kyle?
Yes.
He was in A Perfect Circle.
He was in A Perfect Circle.
And I did not know that until I saw, like, one of their music videos from Perfect Circle. I'm like, wait, is that James Ira?
It is.
Like, wow, I did not know he was in, like, A Perfect Circle.
Fun fact about A Perfect Circle, that was one of our first planned videos, and it was one of the videos we're almost never gonna get to.
Maybe we'll do that in the future. So yeah, the band had to go through a lot.
Quite a bit.
Let's talk about the songs themselves, starting out with the opener, Cherub Rock.
Yes, the song that got me into the Smashing Pumpkins. Great song. Starts off a little weird with the drums, but it slides in. It slides into DMs like a Chad at 3 in the morning.
Seriously, the riff is just so catchy. It's like one of those riffs where you have to, like, sing along to, you know?
Yeah.
Like doing the guitar noises and everything. And it is like the very definition of like the perfect intro to your grunge album, and it is extremely singable too. And next up we have the track Quiet. And it's like one of those juxtaposed songs with very heavy instrumentals mixed in with like mid to low volume vocals.
And funnily enough, the song was not very quiet.
It definitely wasn't. Again, juxtaposition. And then there
which is a big theme, which we will see eventually later in their music.
And then there's also one of their most well-known songs, Today.
Today is the greatest day I've ever known.
It has that like sarcastic, like, oh, it's happy, but it's actually really edgy because of like the verses. You know, like, I have ribbon scars, my stomach stings because I have like a lot of like hesitation marks on my stomach, and it like, you know, rubs on my clothing, so it hurts. You know, there's like a lot of references to suicide, and I wanna burn my eyes out, and rip my heart out, stuff like that.
Fun fact about the stomach thing, it's actually a reference to stomach ulcers, which is something that a lot of musicians have to deal with. Even Kurt Cobain had to deal with stomach ulcers at one point.
That's why he feels so, like, painful in his vocals sometimes.
Yeah.
And another thing is that Today was actually written right after he threatened everybody to, like, just jump off the building because he was just getting so tired of himself and just how everything was going, and, like, everything was just so chaotic when they were recording this. So instead of jumping off the roof, he was like, okay, I'll just write this song, just sort of vent out my frustrations with everything, and that's how Today came to be.
Needless to say, he did not think Today was the greatest.
Yeah, so it's one of those, like, sarcastic songs. Next up we have Hummer. Now, I think this song is actually pretty interesting.
I do not like it.
Because the main gimmick here is that, you know how in most songs, the song kind of goes from, like, a very quiet to, like, a more progressively louder and aggressive tone?
Yeah.
Hummer does the exact opposite.
It gets aggressive and then it mellows out.
Yeah, it gets a lot more, it gets loud, and then it just starts to calm down a little bit more as the song progresses.
Good luck getting past the beginning, though, because it's really painful to your ears.
It makes my ears explode, but in a good way.
In a bad way.
Alright then.
Not a fan.
And then we have Disarm.
Ooh.
This song right here has like a very interesting backstory to it. When Billy Corgan was growing up with his autistic half-brother, they had to deal with their stepmother.
It was a bitch.
I know. She physically and mentally abused them, like, all the time. And instead of Corgan, like, lashing out on her and being aggressive towards her, instead he makes the song where it has, like, orchestral instrumentals and the violin. I think you even hear some piano, like, very faintly in the background in this one, too. A little bit.
Yeah, Corgan had a pretty rough childhood.
Yeah, I know.
You'll see that quite a bit in most musicians.
And you even, like, hear, like, hey, I'm going to disarm you with a smile. To, like, have you figure out, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't fucking do this to a child. Or, oh, maybe I shouldn't be an abusive bitch.
You think she ever learned her lesson?
I'm not sure. Maybe not, maybe, who knows.
Bad people usually don't.
They usually don't. And it's just one of those examples of Billy Corgan really trying to, like, outstand other artists, you know? And I think there's also some, like, cellos in there as well. And that is sort of like a prophecy on what they would do a lot on their next album.
Oh,
we're not going to talk about their next album yet.
We've already talked about it too much.
I want to talk about a few more tracks on here, and then we'll move on. And then there's Soma. At first you might think that this is a very slow song. We're finally kind of calming things down with the acoustic guitar and all that. But then...
And then it psychs you.
And then it just fucking slaps you in the face. And just reminds you about the cold, harsh reality that you live in, and gives you a false sense of security. It's just like that, and I love it.
It's pretty scary. I was not a fan of it, because
it reminds you of the harsh reality that you live in, right?
No, incorrect. Because it surprised me while I was running. I run around my neighborhood a lot. Exercise. I was going up a hill that I had never been up. It's the one near, what do you call it?
Don't name the street. This is public, remember?
I'll tell you later. Anyway, I was going up a bit. I was listening to the song, I was like, alright, yeah. And then as soon as I hit the edge of the hill, it slapped me. And I'm like, fuck, go back. I was getting in a groove, and I was like, ugh.
The fucking bitch slaps you, and I love it. It's just, it just really catches you off guard, keeps you on your toes. But then the next song on here is definitely a fan favorite for a good reason, and that's Mayonnaise.
Mayonnaise.
I don't know why they call it Mayonnaise, but I think this has to be like the most emotional song, in my opinion. And
see, it's another duality thing. Mayonnaise isn't emotional, but this song is.
Is mayonnaise an instrument?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Is that a SpongeBob thing?
What do you think?
Probably. Never watched SpongeBob fully. People on the internet.
Yeah, no. I was surprised too when he first told me that. Anyway, now, Mayonnaise. This one right here has a lot of abstract lyrics, so it really gives you enough time to interpret something yourself.
It's also an instrument.
I already made that joke, Kyle. And the weird thing about this one is that the whistling noise that you can hear from the guitar itself, like when it goes like, that song, that sound, like, the reason why it makes that noise is because of the feedback that it comes through.
Oh, I thought it was just out of tune.
And the guitar that Billy bought for this song in particular was so cheap that it made that sound whenever you stopped playing that guitar, even for like a split second. And the feedback was so, like, cheap and just low budgeted, because he really wanted to give this song, like, an authentic feel.
Like as crappy as Mayonnaise?
Yes. Mayonnaise is crappy but authentic.
And an instrument.
And then there is Space Boy. This song is, like, super underrated. Okay? It is.
It really is.
And this is a tribute to the autistic half-brother that I mentioned before in Disarm. I forgot what his name was. The only thing that I know is that, you know how, like, every autistic person has that, like, special, like, interest?
Yeah.
They excel in?
Like you? Like Michael Jackson?
Kyle. And the thing about Corgan's half-brother is that, he might be, like, you know, he's not very good at social skills. He's basically that one person who, spaces out a lot. And but he loves astronomy. He loves the zodiac and all that stuff, right? And that's why his name is Space Boy in this song. This is a mostly acoustic track, and just like Disarm, it incorporates a lot of violins, giving it, like, kind of like a dreamy vibe. And that's another, like, whole thing about this album, is that whenever they use, like, the same sort of thing, like, Disarm had orchestral instrumentals just like Space Boy, because those two meanings of the song kind of intercept with each other.
It reminds me a whole lot of The Nightman Cometh by Charlie Day.
Yeah. And so, the next song that we're going to talk about is definitely one of my favorite songs on here. Like, yeah. Silverfuck.
Oh yeah, you love this song.
I love this song so much. This has to be like the most violent, in-your-face, pissed-off track in the entire thing.
Fun fact about this song, it wasn't explicit on Apple Music until 2 years after they put it on there.
Yeah. And the angsty lyrics just make it even better. Because it's like, bang bang, you're dead, hole in your head. And it gives it that sense of hopelessness and ambience near the middle of the song.
Yeah, Mason's a real big fan of hopelessness for some reason.
Because I am hopeless, okay? and I really like ambience as well. And whenever you listen to this on your phone or the radio, whenever it gets to that middle point where it's quiet and stuff, it sounds like nothing is playing.
It's like anticipation.
Yeah, right? And even though you can kind of hear his vocals a little bit, so it, like, forces you to turn it up.
And then once you do, it blasts you, and your eardrums die.
Like, even though you know that it's going to, like, kick your ass, because you've listened to the song so much.
Oh. One of my dogs has entered the building.
Yeah.
I repeat, entered the building. Sorry guys, we had to do a quick pause. My dogs were making a ruckus. Let's go back to Silverfuck. Great song.
Yeah, it's definitely chaotic.
It's chaotic. It's a lot of things, really. Silverfuck could be the best song on the album. It does have some flaws, and the middle section spooks me, but
I like the spookiness.
Spook.
So next up, we have like the last two tracks, which are Sweet Sweet and Luna. These two songs right here, yeah, they're pretty good, like slow acoustic tracks, but they also feel a little bit cliche, in my opinion. Like, it's not like bad, but like I think it could have been better.
They could have done better ending tracks.
Yeah. So now we've got Siamese Dream out of the way.
No. I'm gonna put a disclaimer here. If you do not like long-form, ranty discussion from two angsty, edgy teenagers, I would leave now. Immediately.
Okay, never mind. One more thing about Siamese Dream. The cover art. The two girls on the cover art... The one with the
giant forehead?
Yeah, the two girls on the cover art. Like, their identities were completely unknown, mainly because, like, the pictures in the booklet were a combination of the band members, members of Billy Corgan's family, and, like, just random people on the street. And for some reason, in 2007, Billy Corgan announced that they were trying to find the two girls for some reason. And pictures of Billy standing with the right girl, Allie Langer, exists. You know, that's what their name is. But it's unclear if the left girl, identified as Lysandra Roberts, met Corgan before. I have a feeling at this point in time, they're, like, in their, like, what, 20s, 30s now?
Yeah, they have kids and stuff.
Yeah. So that's about, like, what the cover art is about.
Anyway, disclaimer for Mellon, Collie. Mason has so many notes on this. Mason prepared notes for this before we even came up with the idea for this podcast.
Yeah. Like, traditional notes, at least.
Mason... Wait, hold on, let me get them. This is a monster right here. It's 3 pages on concepts for Melancholy and Infant Sadness.
And on my phone, I have, like, what, 2.5 pages worth of, like, talking about the new songs themselves?
It's 30 minutes, and we haven't even talked about their longest album. Jesus Christ, please leave. Leave this place. Leave this accursed land.
Alright.
I just threw a marble at the computer.
Okay. Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness.
Probably my favorite album. My third favorite album of all time.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's something. It is just a huge double album of, like, nothing but just bipolar ass emotions.
You can handle the concepts. I'm gonna handle the songs. Dead ass. Let me get up my
But I have
list.
both, though.
I'm gonna handle the songs, though. I want to. I want to do it, Mason.
Alright,
because here's the thing. Mason's gonna talk for, like, an hour about the concepts. Okay. Melancholy and the Infant Sadness starts out with this beautiful piano track. It's really nice.
The title track.
It's nice, it's calm, and it's effective. Then, it eases you right into tonight.
Wait, I just realized something. And before we get into the songs, I know, I'm sorry, we're getting kind of mixed up right now. Let's talk about the recording process first, and then I'll just kind of sort of talk about the main basic concepts, and then we can go on to the songs. I'm sorry about that. So, the recording process for Melancholy and Infant Sadness, it was a lot more smoother. It was actually pretty good. They had a pretty good time. They got their shit together. For example, bassist Darcy and James Ira came back. They have a lot more input on this album that they did with Siamese Dream. What else? Billy wanted to make, quote-unquote, The Wall for Gen X, and they succeeded in that. It's pretty good. Yeah. It's as good as The Wall.
It's better than The Wall. It's a lot better than The Wall. I would say The Wall is like a 6. This is a 10, a 9. This is good.
And the instrumentals are a lot more diverse. It ranges from, it has pianos, synthesizers, drum loops, a live orchestra, and even like salt shakers and scissors as seen on Cupid de Lock. Yeah, they use scissors on one of the tracks. Billy had to keep playing the guitar on Ode to No One constantly until his fingers basically bled, or else the whole thing would just fall apart and they would have to do it all over again. And Corgan wanted to relieve the stress that was from the recording of Siamese Dream, so he decided to be less of the boss of things and more of an equal band member than anyone else. Because before, for like the first 2 albums, he was kind of like the guy who was in charge. You know, he kind of was like, okay, you do this, you do that, stuff like that. He didn't do that in Melancholy.
And Melancholy was more eccentrical. It was really, it had quite a theme to it. It was more mystical than rocky.
And another thing is that they recorded and completed over 52 songs for this album. And originally they were going to use 32 tracks, but ended up with 28 instead. So that's pretty interesting.
So much music was thrown into this. And you can tell they picked the best of the best.
So now we can finally talk about the tracks themselves.
So I already discussed the piano track. I love piano tracks. It's a good piano track. Not much to say about it.
Yeah, it gives it a more cinematic feel when it comes to like the violins and the cellos.
But one of my favorite songs comes up immediately. Tonight. It starts off orchestrally, but at the end, it really gets you into it. It ramps you up. It's a ride the whole way through.
It's mystical. It has that like mystical fantasy thing, and this is what I'm going to kind of talk about the overall concept of this thing, because this is a concept album, and according to Billy Corgan,
adolescence.
It's about adolescence, and it's also about, quote, the human condition of mortal sadness.
And that's really edgy. That's the edgiest thing I think I've ever heard.
Yeah, definitely. And an infinite sadness is basically
depression.
After a night of drinking, to forget about mistakes and problems, everything comes just rushing back to you in the morning. That's what an infinite sadness is. I have no idea what it has to do with alcohol, but
we don't drink. We are minors.
Yeah, we're good little boys.
Yeah, we are. And then it transitions from Tonight into a really hard song, Jelly Belly.
Jelly Belly.
Not a fan of the song that much, but it's good.
Originally it was supposed to be a lead single.
It's okay.
Jelly Belly right here, it kind of reminds the listener that life isn't always easy, and it combines the cynicism. What does that say? I made these like a year ago. Of the teenage mindset with the hope inherent
cynicism. It would be cynicism.
Yeah, with the hope inherent to the idea of youth, beauty versus cynical viewpoints. And Tonight is a hopeful track, try to live in the best moments in life, explores themes of potential and creativity, and it just kind of reminds you that, hey, don't worry about the past, it's going to be okay.
I would love to hear a live performance of Tonight. But then, after Jelly Belly, we move into one of my favorite and edgiest songs on here, Zero.
Yes! I think this song has to have like a lot of screaming in there.
What was the one lyric that they did that was super edgy? Emptiness is cleanliness, and cleanliness is godliness, and God is empty. And just like
me, yeah.
God,
it's so edgy.
It's like someone who goes on Reddit and thinks they're smart because they don't believe in God. Someone like that would say that.
Yeah, like it's heavy, but it's not as heavy as like other tracks. And Zero is basically Billy Corgan's response to the public's perception of him as a quote-unquote rock god. And it kind of fits in with the whole theme, I believe, mainly because of the whole thing with the human condition of mortal sadness. He was, he wasn't as sad as, like, the making of Siamese Dream, but he's still, again, he doesn't really want this fame. He doesn't want to be, like, your god. He doesn't want to be this, like, super-duper awesome, cool rock star or whatever. He just wants to make music.
He's not your god, he's your zero.
Yeah, definitely. So, again, these two themes of adolescence and the human condition of mortal sadness.
Then you go into Here's No Why. How about you take Here's No Why?
This is a confessional song about his 18-year-old self. and it kind of describes about his childhood and his teenhood affecting him and his adult life. And you're going to see a lot of references to that in this album. Next up, we have
the meme song.
The
Rat in the Cage.
It's the Rat in the Cage song. This song right here is like the most popular Smashing Pumpkins song for a good reason.
It's one of my favorite songs, just period. It's so good.
And it has like the style of a powerful anthem that just does not fuck around.
The world is a vampire.
And it's basically the shit's about to get real song of the album, okay? And I think the whole meaning of this song is that, in my personal opinion, is that I think the song is about oppression. And this is why. Because it kind of talks about with dealing with the world and people around you with no purpose, and maybe some hints of rebuttal against the music industry. I think that's another meaning, but personally I think the song is about oppression, because no matter how much you scream, how much you rant against the public, they won't really take you that seriously.
Yeah, you gotta remember...
Because you're part of the minority.
So remember, this album came out when people didn't accept gays that much.
Or something like that, or any other minority.
No, people accepted a lot of minorities, just not LGBTQ people.
And it backs up my claim that this song is about oppression, because there's a lot of other songs on here that kind of talks about, you know, themes of, we come out at night, this is our moment to shine. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of teenagers kind of think that, oh, I don't fit in, or oh, I'm different, or something like that. So it kind of fits into that too.
I'm not like the other girls.
Yeah. So after Bullet with Butterfly
comes
Wings,
to my favorite song on the whole album, To Forgive. It's really sad and emotional, and it's just a great time all around. It's like a song that would play in the third act of a movie when the main character is getting knocked down before he comes back. It's kind of like that. I really like this song.
Yeah, this song is about someone who feels that they're flawed, about how they can't stop caring too much for things, and they're just trying to be apathetic for the past. You know, again, there's like this whole theme of going back to the past and just like, you know what, this is in the past, I should try to move on. But people who are our age tend to be like, oh, I'm so stupid, I did this in the past, or something like that, and they're always apathetic. Not just this generation, just teenagers in general.
Yeah.
I think teenagers in general are apathetic and stuff, right? They don't care about your rules. You freaking rules! Ugh, I hate detention. You know, stuff like that.
School sucks. I want to go home and play Fortnite on my Android mobile.
And the next up, we have an Ode to No One, which is actually the alternate title for the song. It's actually called Fuck You, an Ode to No One. Yeah, it's literally called Fuck You.
Really?
And this one is a lot more faster paced when compared to the other songs. And it's full of nothing but anger and frustrations, and it's one of the few examples of him singing TV. I think that was a typo. Of singing without instrumentals for a brief amount of time.
Singing TV.
The typo's on my notes, I'm sorry guys. And on here, it's a song about frustration, it's a disconnection to one's past, and it's just a fuck you to everything and everyone. And next up, we have the song that's just called Love.
It's love. I love the song. This is a great song. It's on my playlist.
And it's filled with multiple and unique guitar tones and anamorphic vocal effects alongside Corgan, who blows through a soundscape that feels deceptive.
It's who you love.
Yeah, and he has like piercingly sincere vocals on here. And it's against the concept of love as, like, a sexual thing. And it's more about an emotional thing. And love can be just as bad as hate.
Yeah.
And that's true. It could be just as bad as hate. Maybe even worse.
Cupid de Loc is the next one. And this one's, like, a ton of weird hodgepodge sounds. And, it's pretty trippy.
And there's a lot of themes of love and death on this one. And it's kind of like a retelling of Matthew Locke's Cupid and Death, where Cupid and Death accidentally switch arrows, causing chaos to the world. I don't know, it was some sort of like weird old story that was like written back then. The next song is Galapagos, And this song describes the crippling marriage between...
It's Galapagos.
Whatever. And this one kind of describes the crippling marriage between Billy Corgan and Chris Fabian. What? Is that a typo again? And it talks about change and parallels that the Galapagos Islands and the Charles Darwin evolution stuff.
I love Charles Darwin. I love his work. So here's the thing about the Galapagos Islands, for context. The Galapagos Islands were set right off of South America, where a ton of diverse species were completely ostracized from any other place on the planet. So you get types of certain organisms that are completely different from others. If you want to learn more, look up the Big Bird studies on Alpha Major. Those are really cool, and it basically just proves evolution and all the stupid boomers who don't believe in it wrong. It's pretty great.
Wait, what do you mean disproves evolution?
I said it proves evolution.
Oh, okay. The next up, we have Muzzle. Now, this one right here...
It's good.
...was originally supposed to be the 5th single for this album, but instead they wanted to sort of just put it as like a promotional thing that'll only be on the radio. This one is about... it's basically a preemptive strike against critics, and it's also about him hoping life would be better if he quote-unquote kept his mouth shut, and it has this feeling that life would go downhill. Because again, I know that I'll keep saying stuff about adolescence, but like, every time you feel like shit, you feel like that's just going to get worse over and over and over again. Right?
Yeah.
And I think not just teenagers feel like this. I think people in general feel like this as well, right? I feel like that all the time.
I don't feel like it anymore. I used to when I was a younger teenager. Like, when I was 15, 14. But once you take a more positive outlook on life, later in life, you'll do a lot better.
Next up we have Porcelina of the Vast Oceans. Now this one right here is really interesting.
It's got a great name, and it's also very calm.
And it's about a being named Porcelina. Okay, again, this song right here, I have no idea fits in with the whole theme of, like, adolescence, but I do know that it fits in with, like, the whole mortal sadness thing. And it's basically a being named Porcelina who breaks these quote-unquote mental blocks that are used as a defense shield to strengthen our beliefs.
What?
What? That is, like, very confusing. Like, do the beliefs that we have cause the sadness? Is that what he's trying to say?
Billy, what the fuck are you trying to tell us?
Again, Billy is a really weird guy when it comes to, like, writing songs sometimes.
Billy, stop. Billy, please.
Yeah, like, this track, sound-wise, is also really interesting because they were recorded at various times with different instrumentals and recording setups, then were digitally, like, recorded on Pro Tools. And it's really, like, interesting because this song is, like, 9 minutes long. It's pretty long. It's pretty progressive. And I just love how, like, the different times and the different settings that they were recorded kind of clash together. So it sort of feels like the time has progressed in the next, like, 9 minutes that you're listening to this. And the next one that we're going to talk about...
Take Me Down.
Take Me Down. Now this song is about someone beckoning to another to join them in life and to be in love with each other. That's another song about love.
To take me down with you, basically.
You know, either things go really good or really terribly. And remember when I said that this album is just filled with negative energy?
Yeah.
Yeah, just guess.
It's like the opposite of Incubus, Make Yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Where Boys Fear to Tread. I forgot to mention this.
Peer pressure.
I forgot to mention that this is the first song on the second half of the album, which is called Twilight, Starlight, or just the Night side of the album. Because all the songs that we were talking about before were on the day side. And Billy Corgan did say that it was important to note about these two sides to really understand the whole concept. And I have no idea what those two sides really mean.
Day man, ooh-ah, fighter of the night man. Any Sunny fans out there?
Maybe.
Please.
So I have no idea what really is the difference between the day and night sides of the album. So anyway, Where Boys Fear to Tread.
It's about peer pressure, kind of.
In your interpretation?
Yes.
I think, in my opinion, Where Boys Fear to Tread was kind of inspired by the relationship love triangle of Courtney Love, Billy Corgan, and Nine Inch Nails' Trent Reznor. Yeah, they were in this, like...
Wait, Courtney Love?
Yeah, Billy Corgan kind of had a crush on her for some reason.
What?
Yeah, I know, it's weird. And it would, like, send her love letters or whatever during this time. Because remember, this was, like, a year after Kurt Cobain died.
Even after our boy died?
Yeah, Billy Corgan was like, oh yeah, let me suck up those titties, man.
You wanted to slide in the DMs?
Why would you want to date a girl that's a complete bitch, Billy? Come on. Who would want to date Courtney Love?
Meanwhile, while suing every member of Nirvana for existing?
Yeah, seriously. Also, Trent Reznor, Billy, I thought you were cooler than this, man. Why would you date a girl like that?
What the fuck, Billy?
So yeah. The next one is Bodies. Again, another thing about Courtney Love and Billy Corgan. About them exchanging letters or whatever. It's stupid, I know.
Why would you even want to talk to that woman?
I don't know.
If I saw her on the street, I would avoid her.
Or at least call the police or something.
Call the police.
Call the police.
Kirby's calling the police.
Courtney Love is in my street. Please help me. I need an adult.
I am an adult.
Okay, where were we? Oh yeah.
33.
33! Ooh, I love this one. 33 has to be, like, one of those mystical songs that I talked about before, where it has, like, the piano and the orchestral instruments on here. And I think this song is about how a lot of people say that the afterlife as an excuse to not really do things and to reach those goals in life.
It's a very good point.
And there's also a lot of, like, callbacks to the events leading up to Jesus' crucifixion. If you listen to the lyrics, there's, like, a lot of callbacks to, like, all of that stuff in the Bible.
Yeah, just like Maynard, Billy does not have a good...
he's not religious, let's just say that.
He does not have a good reputation with religion. Another atheist? Hell yeah. Non-religion gang.
And this one right here, like, there's a reason why this is a single. Because, again, same thing with the artwork. It has that sort of retro, stage play, gothic tone to it, a little bit. Because I think this album is when Billy Corgan's goth, like, side of him starts to kind of peek out. Because before Smashing Pumpkins, Billy Corgan was in this goth band, and it did not work out well. They broke up after, like, a year of, like, performing or whatever. So he has a lot of gothic inside of him. You know?
Yeah.
Next up...
He's a sad boy.
Yeah, so next up, we have the track In the Arms of Sleep. It describes insomnia, and the lifestyle of a person who isn't satisfied in their relationship. Because again, adolescence and mortal sadness, all of these things kind of sort of come from relationships, whether they're successful or non-successful. Because if you are in a successful relationship, and you've been with this person for a very long time, things start to fall short, you know? Like,
yeah.
You're old, like, you're kind of used to this person, you argue a lot. I think that's why a lot of boomer comics are like, oh yeah, I hate my wife so much, or whatever, right? Because they've been together for so long. And if the relationship doesn't work, it feels very off-putting and it's just chaotic.
F in the chat for boomers for having unhappy marriages.
Because no matter how much you look at it, successful relationships can be a little bit rough in the long term. But non-successful relationships can, like, seriously fuck you up in the short term.
Yeah.
And, like, that process where you're breaking up with someone, it's just a mess.
So how would you know?
I don't know, okay? But I've heard from, like, almost anybody, like, yeah, don't be in a relationship until, like, college at least.
That's what I keep telling you, man.
Yeah. And the next one that we're going to talk about is the big one. The one...
Take back 1979.
This song right here has been a huge, and I mean a huge, huge influence on their later work.
Yeah.
And it is one of their biggest singles, their most popular songs that they have ever created in their entire career. I think even more than Bullet with Butterfly Wings.
Yeah.
It played on every pop station back in the 90s. You could not escape this song. And I don't care. And 1979 is about teenage adolescence at its basic form.
Cool kids never
got any time. Yeah. And the freedom that it comes with it. And it's one of the few positive songs on here, next to songs like Tonight Tonight. Because sometimes the band will kind of take a break from the edginess and sort of say, hey, life does have some good moments, but overall it's just very chaotic, you know? 1979. It has the drum machine in there, it kind of has some techno aspects, and the vocal effects that you can hear in the background. Yeah, that. Yeah, that sounded really weird. It sounded like you were orgasming in your sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah. 1979. Huge influence, especially on the next album, but we're not going to talk about Adore right now. Next up we have Tales of a Scorched Earth.
This one's just about, like, the apocalypse.
This one is right after 1979. A accessible, carefree song, and then you hear this, like, banging, like, right in your face, bass-boosted metal song that has to be the heaviest song on this entire album. And Tales of a Scorched Earth is basically about Corgan's continuous struggles with apathy. Because he kind of feels as though he has kind of matured, like, mentally, since he's a full-grown adult. Full-grown adult.
I can't wait till I'm an adult.
But he still has that apathy that he had back when he was a teenager, and he's trying to let that go, and actually let go of that apathy, and care about things. And, yeah, I love this song. And it's not for everybody. This song right here
It's not for me. I don't like it very much.
It is... Oh my god, it is just one of the best, like, headbangers on this entire thing. So, next up on this album is Through the Eyes of Ruby. And this song right here has, like, a lot... Again, another song about relationships. It describes the emotions and purposes seen in teenage relationships, and it's also about Corgan's soon-to-be ex-wife, Chris Fabian. Is Chris a female name? Can you call yourself Chris if you're female?
You can call yourself Sam if you're female.
I guess that's true.
There's also a female named LaForge with a 4.
Again, like, remember when I said that this is about adolescence and the Mortal Sadness stuff?
Yeah. This is where the Mortal Sadness kicks in?
This is where both of those themes just combine into one. And at first, when I was researching this album, I thought that one side was about adolescence and the other side was about Mortal Sadness, but no. It's a mixture of both on each side. So I don't know why Billy said that it was important to understand the difference between the day and night side.
Day, man.
And next up we have a song called Stumbling. No,
Wait.
Stumbling is next.
No.
Yes, it is.
No.
Are you sure?
Oh, look. Stumbling is after Through the Eyes of Ruby. You dumb?
Yeah, we just got finished with Through the Eyes of Ruby. Next up is Stumbling.
Oh, shit.
Okay, Stumbling. This is a weird track. Not sound-wise, of course. It's like a very, like, you know, straightforward acoustic track.
I don't remember Stumbling.
But lyrically, this one is weird because it's like a bunch of, like, one-sentence, like, short stories about swapping roles in a relationship in order to deal with the burdening problems that plague the world. and just, the problems of everyday life. I have no idea what that means.
Yeah, no, me either.
It's weird.
The song's a mystery.
This entire album is weird, but that's why we love it. XYU.
I don't like this song.
What?
I know, right?
Oh, come on. This has to be, their most mosh pit-ish song in their entire discography.
And that's why I don't like it. I like the
tap, kaboom, boom.
That's why I like the Sun half.
Yeah, and XYU, again, it's not for everyone. It's not for Kyle, of course. But, the screeching noise rock textures and the brutal metallic riffing, which, while it is repetitive in some sense, it undergoes a constant evolution to propel its harrowing standout to dizzying heights. Alright, it's just that good.
That sounds like something a professional critic would say about a movie.
Yeah, it's so good. It's like one of my favorite heavy songs on this record. And just when the sonic machinery presents a downshift, the song takes off like a rocket ship, with a sudden change in tempo when Courtney screams, "In the eyes of the jackal, I say kaboom!" That's like my favorite part. It's like the climax of the song, dude. I love it. XYU is good shit. Okay?
Let's talk about an actual good song. We Only Come Out at Night.
Remember when I said that another song's about oppression?
Yeah.
Here it is again. It kind of proves my point about my interpretation, in my opinion. Because another song about oppression. The Hour of Freaks, as he said in the song. The night is where the ridiculed and the condemned people thrive. Because you point your finger and you say, oh, you're different, or, oh, you're this kind of minority. This is our time to shine. That's why a lot of websites like Tumblr or like Twitter have all these toxic people, and all these people that look very weird and deviant, is because it's their time to shine.
Yeah, and sometimes their shining isn't always a good thing.
Yeah, there are some people who just flat out do not have common sense, like myself.
And Mr. Christian Weston Chandler.
Like all of these deviants. I mean, that's why it's called deviant art, after all, because, well, everybody on that website is different. They're weird. They're not normal, quote-unquote. And they make really weird shit.
Like weird art.
Yeah.
And weird fan fictions.
Yeah, stuff like that.
If you've ever seen the one Hiroshima Bakugo thing that almost made me puke, or the multiple, it's pretty scary. I would not...
Yeah. So another song about oppression. Next up, we have the track Beautiful. And this one right here is about pure love, and that's it. I think this has to be like one of the few songs on here that there's really not that much to talk about. Other than it's just a sappy love song.
The next one's Lily, My One and Only.
My One and Only. This one right here is kind of a stalker story.
It's about Lily.
It's about a man that creepily stalks on a girl named Lily, only for her to call the police to take him away. What does this have to do with, oh shit! Relationships!
Yeah,
mortal sadness! I am in love with this girl, but I'm too fucked up to just walk up to her and say, hey, what's up? I guess that's what it's about when it comes to the whole overall theme.
Uh-huh.
I guess that's what it's about. And then we have By Starlight. And this song is, again, about Billy Corgan and Fabian's wedding day. And it realizes that marriage was flawed from the start, and it wasn't what it was cracked up to be, because he had this feeling that, oh, I have a feeling that this marriage that I have with her is very flawed, and he was right. Maybe it was flawed from the very start, who knows. And then there is the final track on here.
Farewell and Good Night.
Farewell.
It's a perfect closing track. I love it.
I know, the closing track, it's all sung by all of the members of the band, not just Billy Corgan.
Yeah.
So you kind of see that everybody was involved. Again, remember when I said that James Ira and the bassist had more input in the album? All of the members, they're back together again, at least when it comes to a very comfortable position when it comes to making this album together. And it feels like a sweet little lullaby that says, hey, thanks for listening to this album. Thank you for giving your time and appreciation to just feeling this overall experience.
And Jesus H. Christ, we're at an hour. It took us 30 minutes to talk about all of the tracks, and we're not even done, I don't think.
Guys, we're on album 3, and it's already been an hour.
Yeah, no.
But before we get to Adore, I want to talk about the artwork.
Yes, let's talk about the artwork, and then we need to take a break. Honestly. I'm cramped in this closet that we're recording in.
Alright, so the artwork, if you look at the woman on the
it's
front
actually
cover,
3 different pieces of art.
Yeah. If you look really, really closely, you can see that the face and the body are in different resolutions. Like, the face has like a slightly smaller resolution, and it's a little bit more pixelated than the body. You could kind of see it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And the body looks a lot more sharper. And of course the star is its own thing. It's like, I think the original artists took a lot of, like, pieces from old art and put them together to make these, like, weird mosaic collages. Same goes for, like, the booklet art. I couldn't find the booklet art anywhere on the internet, but I've seen, like, some, like, low-resolution, like, screenshots, and it looks amazing. I think I would buy the vinyl just so I can, like, look at the artwork on it, because, damn. And I couldn't find the artist's website either. Seriously. Like, if I did, I would put it in the description and all, but, like...
Yeah, we usually link the artists, but we couldn't find it this time. F in the chat, boys, F in the chat.
Yeah.
We gotta pause.
So that was Melancholy, guys.
When we come back, we'll be doing Adore. Adore, we're doing Adore. Adore now.
Alright,
so... Do you adore this album? I don't.
This album right here is very, very different.
It's the definition of different but mediocre.
I wouldn't really call it mediocre. I think it's more... It's a pretty decent album. If I would put this album on a tier list, I think it would be like a B tier sort of album.
I would put it on straight C. It's okay. It's not great.
It's pretty decent, you know? I put it the same tier as, like, Gish, you know?
It's better than Gish. I'll give it that. It's better than Gish.
So, this album right here feels a lot more gothic and electronic-orientated. And remember when I said that 1979 was a huge influence on, like, later albums?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is, like, the biggest example of that influence.
If 1979 was an album, it'd be this.
Yeah. And the band began to feel very limited on what they could do after the huge success of Melancholy. And they were like, oh, 1979 was pretty successful.
Let's just do that, but a lot.
Yeah, let's just do that a lot because we want to experiment. We want to try different things because it's getting kind of old for us at this point. So, like, hey, let's just make an electronic album.
And it was good.
And Billy Corgan, once again, had to face a lot of issues, including the death of his own mother, his biological mother, not a stepmother, of course.
Yes.
Including... and musical burnout, and of course the absence of Jimmy Chamberlain, the drummer, and of course the end of his marriage, because there's a lot of songs talking about his marriage.
What happened to the drummer?
Remember heroin?
Yeah.
Yeah, rehab.
Oh, he was in rehab?
Yeah.
So he's not dead?
I don't think so.
Well, that's good. That's real good.
And for some reason, they wanted to make this one a double album too. For some reason.
Yeah.
I have no, I know that, like, for a very long time, they wanted to make another double album, but at this point, they kind of doubted that they'll make another one again. And in an absence of their drummer, they instead had to use, like, a technical drum machine for the album at its very early stage of its development. So that kind of, like, made the whole electronic thing a lot more stronger, right?
I still didn't like how there wasn't an organic drummer, and you can really feel that there isn't.
Yeah, there's more of a drum machine. So let's talk about, like, the highlights of the album.
The first track?
That was Sheila, right?
Yes.
What do you like this one?
I like it because it's nothing like we've heard from the Pumpkins. it gave a sense of somewhat positivity, slightly, when everything else has been either breaking out of a norm or being super edgy and negative. And I can appreciate that. Did you like this song?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty decent overall. And next up we have Ava Adore, the lead single to this album.
This is my favorite song on the album. This is good. I like this song.
In the beginning of the song to the very end, you can already tell it was definitely influenced by like a little bit of industrial when it comes to the instrumentals.
Yeah, some Rage Against the Machine in there.
It actually kind of feels more of like a Nine Inch Nails song, but not as edgy.
Yeah, with the nasally bald man.
Which is very ironic, because remember when I said about Trent Reznor dating Courtney Love for some reason?
Yeah.
Yeah, very ironic there.
Very ironic.
And then there is their biggest single on here, Perfect.
Not a perfect song. I didn't like it very much.
And it's basically 1979 again. But that's not a bad thing. I don't think it's really a bad thing.
1978.
And this one right here is akin to more of like a synth poppy sort of feel than anything. And if you watch the music video to 1979 and then to Perfect, the music video to Perfect actually has like a lot of like the same characters, it has the same director, and a lot of people are saying that the video for Perfect is the sequel to 1979. I thought that was pretty interesting. And it's one of the best examples of how The Cure were a huge inspiration for the band as a whole. Because again, like I said, Billy Corgan is a huge goth fan.
Ew, The Cure.
He loves goth
I really
bands.
don't like The Cure.
And he also loves shoegazing as well.
What's shoegazing?
It's basically when a person really drags out their vocals. Kind of like Deftones does.
Why would you call that shoegazing?
I have no idea. I don't know etymology or whatever.
Entomology? No, that's bugs. Damn it, we don't know words.
So, next up, another song that I really enjoy was a song called Tear or Tear. And this was written for the Lost Highway soundtrack, but instead was rejected for I, which was just like, just a regular-ass single. And you can really hear the digital percussion on here, which is one of the most standout elements of this album. And Crestfallen I really like, which is when things take kind of like a step back, with full-on traditional instrumentals such as violins and pianos mixed throughout, and it's just one of those songs you can chill out to. I like it.
Yeah, it's pretty vibin'. I vibe with it.
And then there is Apples and Oranges, spelt like misspelled because it's cool like that, I guess.
It's so edgy. We spelled cool with a K.
I wouldn't really say that it's, like, edgy, like the song itself, but, like, I don't know, like, every time the Pumpkins make some sort of, like, song title, it has to be, like, weird and everything. And it kind of reminds me of something that would be on, like, Machina Part 2. Don't you think?
Yeah, but Machina Part 2 had more of an industrial feel to it.
Yeah.
And this didn't.
And it's a little bit more upbeat with all the electronic noises going on in the background. There's, it kind of has that static-y feel as well, a little bit, too. Pug is next. It's another song that I really enjoyed.
Okay, I want to go on a mini rant about pugs as an animal. They're
Why?
one of the... No. Hear me out. Pugs are a mistake on the world. They were specific...
Pac-Man wants to know your location.
They were specifically bred to be a mistake. They made it so where they can barely breathe. So they have to go around snoring like everywhere they go because they can't breathe because they're genetic mistakes. It's like having everybody in your species be a genetic abomination. Jesus Christ, pugs need to be put down and put out of their misery because, like...
Shit, man. Are you racist against pugs?
No, I feel bad for the pugs because they can't breathe their whole lives. Imagine having that stuffy nose you get when you're sick and you can't breathe out of your nostrils well, and imagine that's your whole life. I would want to die.
And, okay, let's get back to on topic. Are you doing this just to fill up time?
No, I just need talk about pugs in this podcast at least once.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, all the pug lovers, please don't crucify me in the comments like the Pearl Jam episode, I beg of thee.
Yeah. And it's one of the more louder songs on here. Well, it's not like full on like wow, wow, loud, but like louder when it comes to the standards of this album in particular.
Which is a calmer album compared to Siamese Dream.
And the tempo and beat gives it kind of like a funk groove vibe to it, don't you think? It's kind of...
No.
What?
No.
Like, I think so. I think it's because of the time signature, right?
No. I don't know what you're talking about, man.
Alright then. And the guitars return after a while of silence. Because again, this is very, like, synthetic sounding album, so the guitars on here are very minimal.
Well, of course it sounds synthetic. They didn't even have a drummer for most of this.
Yeah. And near the end, again, the industrial side kicks in. And again, can I just, like, say this now? I think this has to be, like, one of the few Smashing Pumpkins songs that you can dance to. I know that sounds weird, but seriously, like, if you, like, listen to this song, I can't help, like...
No, hold on. Sidetrack. Mason is crushing the Declaration of Independence with his legs.
Oh, whoops.
Do not touch it, fool.
Alright. Yeah, so, like, for some reason, I can't help myself but just dance this track for some reason.
Kinda.
And the final one that I want to talk about is Behold the Nightmare. And it's the most atmospheric track out of the bunch. At least...
Sounds like a video game OST. It's like a final boss video game OST.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a lot of acoustic taking over at midpoint, with a lot of layering vocals, like, kind of spreading throughout when you're listening to it. I thought that was pretty cool. But I think the main reason, like, the main problem with The Door, and why I think it kind of falls short, but not by that much, is, like, by the time you get to the last few tracks on here, it's basically just Billy Corgan with the piano, and being like, oh my god, I'm so sad, let me, like, cry about my problems for the last 20 minutes.
Big Die.
Yeah, it's basically him doing that for the last, like, 15, 20 minutes of the album. And it kind of does drag on for a little bit too long.
He's such a whiny bitch. Can he calm down?
Again, he was going through a lot of stuff when they were recording it.
Life isn't that bad.
What if I told you it was?
God.
I know. My mind is blown. That was The Door. Overall, I think it was pretty decent.
Yeah. It fit into the sound quality of 1998, that time period, yeah. But we're moving on to
Machina
Parts 1 and 2, kind of a double album, really.
Okay, so let's just talk about the first part first. This one right here was the first part of a concept album duo sort of thing, and it does have a story. He did mention that there is a story focusing on a character named Zero, and he hears the voice of God through radio waves, and renames his name to Glass, and renames his band to the Machines of God. And the fans in the album are referred to as the Ghost Children.
What?
And that's, yeah, I know, it's weird. The Ghost Children are referred to by name all throughout the album, both of them, actually. And that's probably the only thing that really is confirmed. And the marketing towards this album was, like, really interesting. Because, like, what they did was that originally they were supposed to be a TV show, kind of sort of explaining what's going on in these albums, story-wise. But it got cancelled after, like, 3 episodes.
Are the episodes still around?
Nope.
Can you watch them?
No, you cannot watch them. They're lost media. But there were a lot of screenshots that were leaked on YouTube. Like, the YouTube videos itself are gone now. But if you look deep enough, you'll find the screenshots. And it kind of has that, like, Batman Beyond art style.
Really?
And everything is, like, all dark and murky and, like, industrial with the environments.
Here, speaking of industrial, I'm super glad that they removed the techno that was in A Door to go for the more rocky type of feel that Machina had.
I think both parts of Machina has elements of both Adore and their earlier works. Like, think of it as like a combination of like their previous 4 albums, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Definitely. And it does it pretty well. Pretty damn well. And also, to promote the album, there was this contest on their official website where, since the TV show was cancelled because of financial issues, there was a contest that said, hey, if you can come up with the best interpretation of these albums' story, you will get a free copy of both albums, parts 1 and 2, and considering that part 2's physical version is, like, extremely rare. Like, it is super fucking rare to try to find part 2's physical copy. It was a pretty big deal, at least in the Smashing Pumpkins community. And the winning person who won the contest, who did the interpretation that Billy Corgan liked the most, was... hold on, let me check. Where is it?
Come on, Mason. You've got this. Your rambling cannot be impeded by the loss of words. Come on.
Their name was Anna Silva. Now, I'm not going to, like, read what they wrote down, because, like, I wouldn't really say this summary as, like, canon. But
It's
considering
like
that
headcanon.
Billy Corgan himself liked this interpretation the best out of everyone else's, maybe there's a possibility, and there's a lot of rumors going around, that for the 20th anniversary of these 2 albums, they're going to reissue it so that the production doesn't sound like shit for part 2.
Good.
And have all of the track listing as it was intended to be. Because I have a feeling that some of the tracks on here weren't, like, executed the way that they wanted them to. And I think it'd just be cool to have, like, a physical box set of, like, part 1, part 2, and, like, all of the B-sides.
So, the main character's name is Zero, right?
Yeah. Which is the alter ego of Billy Corgan.
Yeah, didn't Billy Corgan call himself Zero in the one Melancholy song?
Yes.
Zero?
Yes.
Ooh.
And it's pretty interesting. So, let's talk about the actual songs themselves, starting with The Everlasting Gaze.
Ooh. If you gaze into Billy Corgan's head, the shine of his baldness will gaze back.
Yeah. Speaking of baldness, I think this was, like, the first time that Billy Corgan was bald.
Yeah.
Actually, no, that was Adore. Never mind, sorry.
He was malding. He was malding up until this point, and now he's fully bald.
Seriously, if you look at his, like, character model in the TV show that they released, he looks like some, like, big brain dude. You know the type of one, right?
Big brain.
He looks like Dr. Freeze. He looks like a goth version of Dr. Freeze from Batman.
Just remove the intelligence and add edginess. That's
Yeah.
Billy Corgan.
So The Everlasting Gaze, the opening track, is the most well-known song from the album. The unique guitar sound was made using, like, a small crate practice amp. You know, the one that you can hear, like, blah, 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 blah. You know that one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was used using that sort of amp. And it was, like, the perfect opening for an art rock album like this. The thing about Machina is that they wanted to take things a lot more artsy, a more artsy approach to its sound.
Yeah.
And The Everlasting Gaze is a perfect representation of the overall sound of it. And next up we have Raindrops and Sun Showers. And I have to admit, some of the, like, songs on here, like, kind of have this, like, aftertaste from Adore, with the digital drumming mixed in with, like, actual instruments.
Was the boy still in rehab?
No, he's back.
Oh.
He's back. He's fine now.
Then why is there digital drumming?
I don't know. I have a feeling that it kind of felt like a weird habit of them to do that. But they still had, like, actual drumming in these 2 albums, though.
Wow.
It kind of feels like a sequel to Apples and Oranges a little bit, right?
Kinda. Although I didn't really pay attention that much to Apples and Oranges.
Next up is Stand Inside Your Love, which was the second single of this. And it kind of sort of goes back to the gothic feel from Adore slightly. And you're going to hear me say that a lot, like, oh, here are all these things that sound like Adore, because Adore was a huge inspiration for like their later work. It kind of like how 1979 was a huge inspiration as well.
Now let
Because
me get
again, there's the inspiration, there's the experimentation. It's all over the place on these two albums.
Let me get something out of the way. I like Machina Part 1, but I am very mixed when it comes to Part 2. We'll get to that. But in general, Machina Parts 1 and 2 is kind of like the load and reload of Smashing Pumpkins. They're good. They had some good tracks. But overall, it's kind of downward when it comes to quality.
Thanks, Kyle, for that, but I wasn't really done yet.
Well, I wasn't done when you started talking over me, so...
Alright, I'm sorry. So, Try 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 is the more poppier single on this.
Poppier,
yes. My mouth is stupid. And it feels like more of a B-side or outtake from Adore. Again, a lot of these Adore references that I'm saying.
No more Adore. Adore wasn't that good.
It was decent, you know. And then there's This Time. Now, This Time, it goes back to the atmospheric side of things. It's when things start to lean towards the art rocky mood going on. And even though the guitar parts are stripped back in place of more synths and electronics, like it still has that atmosphere going on with the whole ancient mood, and like it kind of like the artwork feels very fitting for the whole entire mood of this album.
I like it. I like the gold color.
Yeah, definitely.
Technically, the title to Machina is The Machines of Gold, so...
It's God,
whatever.
And I think that's it for Part 1. But then there's Part 2.
Which was really bad in production and sound, and I didn't like it. I don't have much to say about it, really.
You didn't like Part 2?
No.
I mean, before we started this episode, I thought you liked it. You kind of changed your opinion?
No. I didn't say I liked it. I just said it wasn't as bad as, like, Adore.
I think this part is better than Part 1. And here's why. This is because it has a lot more diversity compared to Part 1. It has a lot of elements of dream pop, synth goth rock, maybe a little bit of glam tinged heavy metal.
Ew, goth. Gross.
Goth isn't that bad, Kyle, okay? I'm not the huge fan, but still, it's not that bad as something like, I don't know, K-pop or something.
K-pop.
Especially when it comes to their fans.
We need to do a K-pop episode.
No.
Instant no.
Yeah. And the first song that I really like is Cash Star Car. And the best thing on here is definitely the main riff. Okay, it's catchy as all hell. It gets right into the point. And it sounds like something that Tom Morello would write. And it's just screeching, it's distorted as all hell, it's great. And Tom Morello, from Audioslave, he's like one of my favorite guitarists of all time. He's cool.
Yeah, Audioslave is awesome.
I know. Next up we have Real Love. This one is more of like a pop goth rock song. Again, another Cure influenced track.
Cure.
Even you're stuttering too.
Yeah, it's because I'm cramped in this closet that you're able to fit in just fine because you're a 5'5" mogul, but I am not so. So I might be a little cramped.
Kyle, you have a lot more room than me.
Yeah, I need more room.
Spread out your legs or something. Man,
I'm not as small as you.
Well, that's what you get for being tall. And then there's Go. I don't know why they call the song Go. But surprisingly, they changed things up a little bit with this one. James Iha is the vocalist on this song.
Iha. Yeah, I did notice that it sounded not as nasally.
Yeah, like, seriously, like, James Iha, if he was the vocalist for this band, he would have done, like, as good, or even better than Billy Corgan.
Yeah.
Because Billy Corgan by himself,
he sounds okay.
Because again, Billy Corgan and the band, they need each other.
Yeah,
to sound good.
I've listened to some of Billy Corgan's alone works, and it's not good. Great.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I've never really listened to them before, but like, coming from other people, a lot of people have been saying that his solo work is
Doesn't have the same catchiness to it because all the instrumentals are stripped away for nasally vocals and edginess.
Yeah. Next up is In My Body. This is a song that really shines its colors when it comes to, like, it's painting a surreal landscape, mixing in layering vocals and shoegazing vocals as well. Actually, no, layering guitar, sorry.
Shoegazing. I'm still never getting over shoegazing.
Like, I know that there's a lot of these terms.
It's like stargazing, except you go to a shoe shop.
Like, seriously. Like, I know that a lot of these terms are kind of being shoved in your face.
Glam rock,
they sound
glam
fake,
pop.
but trust me, like, they're real. When I told Kyle about sludge metal, he thought I was shitting around.
It sounds fake.
But it really isn't. Alice in Chains is sludge metal.
No, of course Alice in Chains is slud metal. Slut metal. I bet slut metal's a real genre. I can't wait to listen to some slut metal.
And then there's the closing track, Atom Bomb, which is this, like, mix of acoustics, and it's just another example of Adore's influence of the Machina album. Seriously, this really does feel like an Adore outtake. Like, the Adore influences don't really stop with Machina at times,
I
but
really
still,
wish they did.
But still, it's not a bad thing, because I thought that Adore was a pretty decent album.
At least it doesn't, when it influences some of the later better albums, like Shiny and Oh So Bright, it does it in a good way.
And then there's, like, the other songs I forgot to mention, like, Elegy's Machina is a short instrumental track that plays right before Atom Bomb, and it features more techno and 8-bit sounds. It's really dreamy. It's also, like, really creepy as well, because it kind of has that, like, glitchiness to it.
I do like this song.
Ambience.
I like how it has some chiptune elements.
Yeah. And it just feels very eerie, and I love it. And it reminds me of, like, Crestfallen. A little bit. Yeah, definitely.
I see it.
So that was Adore. That was parts 1 and 2 for Adore. And even though I wouldn't really call it their best albums, I think it's really up there. If you, like, took away some of the songs that aren't that great and put it as one single album, it would have been, like, really good, like S tier. But instead, I would feel as more that these two albums are more of like an A tier sort of thing.
Yeah, no. I'd say Machina Part 1 is C and Part 2 is D.
You thought it was that bad, huh?
Not bad, just kind of... It was like Crow Murder from Incubus, but like slightly less memorable.
Wasn't that your, like...
It was my favorite.
Yeah.
But that was because the vocalist to Incubus had more of a vocal range than Billy.
Alright, this is the part where things go extremely downhill to the point where they just break up.
Yeah.
I couldn't find any details as to why they broke up, but after they released Machina Part 2 independently, because the label was like, Adore didn't sell as well, go fuck yourself, I'm not gonna, like, help you out with Part 2. So they just, like, released Part 2 out there independently.
They just gave it out.
They just gave it out for free. And that's it. And then
Wish I was one of those guys, because now it's impossible to get a hold of.
Yeah, at least the physical version.
The non-physical version's on YouTube. Go check it out.
So, they break up, right? And it's kind of been a while. But then, 2006 comes around.
It does come around.
And they're finally back. And they're making a new album.
And everybody hates it.
For some reason, it had a lot of mixed reviews when it came out. Zeitgeist?
Okay,
Their 2007 album?
we need to start hashtag stop the Zeitgeist hate.
What?
Yes. Zeitgeist does not deserve the hate it gets. It's not as bad as people say. It's not great, but it's not the worst thing they made. It's on the same tier as Gish, really.
What?
Yeah.
I thought Gish was like your least favorite.
Yeah. But people make, what's it called? They make Zeitgeist out to be like as bad, if not worse, than Saint Anger. When really it's not that way. It's not that bad.
It's actually really good. I like it.
I don't say it's really good, but it's not that bad, guys. It's not that bad.
So when the band came back together, two of the members are still around, but the other two members, they aren't around anymore. Like, they didn't die or anything. It's just that when Billy Corgan tried to get them back into the band, they just said, no, I don't want to be in this band anymore. So it's like, okay, the only people who are really still with me are, like, me and James Ira, and that's it. Everybody else, the other two members of the band, are pretty much new. They're new
How's their
additions.
drummer doing?
I think he's doing pretty good for himself, right now at least.
That's good.
But the bassist, what was her name again? I forgot. Yeah, their bassist, she kind of
Spit it out.
spit it out. Yeah, she was not doing so well for herself. And this album right here kind of feels like one of those albums where they're like, okay, let's take a break from like all of these weird experimental stuff that we're doing and all of these projects. Like, Mellon was a huge project. Machina was also a pretty big project. Adora was experimental as all hell. Gish and Siamese Dream were pretty fucking psychedelic. Let's just make a very straightforward rock album for newcomers, but also something that hardcore fans would enjoy as well.
And it did not work. For the hardcore fans, they did not like it.
But I liked it. I don't know why people hate this. A lot of people are saying, oh, it's because of the shitty production. Again, Machina Part 2, shitty production, but it's a good album. And a lot of other people are saying that, oh, it's not as ambitious, or oh, it's not as experimental. Again, that's the entire point of Zeitgeist, is to just kind of take a break from the ambiguity and just be straightforward about it and on to the point.
Can we, before we get into it, just talk about how the main album cover kind of looks like a Homestuck panel?
I mean, there were Statues of Liberties in the webcomic.
Yeah, and the weird clouds, and just, yeah.
And remember when they were trying to like, be straightforward and stuff, not be experimental?
Yeah.
They succeeded in that, but they kind of failed at it when it comes to its presentation. Do you know why?
Why?
There are 6 versions of Zeitgeist.
What?
Every single color being slightly different.
Slightly different?
There's a red version, there's a green version, orange, blue, purple, and silver.
I listened to...
It's like Pokemon!
I listened to the red one.
Yeah, who hasn't listened to, like, the red one? And each of these albums, all of the colors, have different versions within them.
It's exactly that Pokemon. They're the exact same album, they're just slightly different.
Yeah, like, for example, I think the green album has, like, a VHS tape that has, like, all the music videos associated with Zeitgeist. Hold on.
What?
Yeah, like, it's really weird. And pretty cool as well.
Did Zeitgeist at least sell well?
I'm not sure. I have a feeling it sold moderately well, I guess. I mean, at this point, Smashing Pumpkins weren't really the top of the map anymore when it comes to, like, popularity. So, yeah, there's, like, multiple versions of this album. Like, the red version has, like, the original 12 tracks. The orange version has a bonus track, Death from Above. The purple version has a bonus title track, Zeitgeist. The green version it has, like, the same standard track listing, but it's, like, an HMV version or whatever. And then there's the blue version, which was exclusively on iTunes. Includes, like, all of the other, like, B-sides and bonus tracks. And includes, it also includes a live EP as well. And it has all of the music videos as well.
So I've got a question for you.
And there's the silver version.
Oh, well, I guess you could talk over me.
Which has the DVD disc on it. And the documentary called Inside the Zeitgeist.
What is a Zeitgeist?
I don't know. I think it's like... I have no idea. Something about politics, because this album is pretty political.
Then I don't want to talk about it because I don't like politics. That's one of my only criticisms with Zeitgeist. I really don't like politics. The only political album I think that pulled it off was A Perfect Circle. And even then, I didn't agree with a lot of what A Perfect Circle said. So,
And Corgan even said in the past, like, putting political slander in a Smashing Pumpkins album, that just doesn't feel right, and yet here we are. So kind of, yeah.
Good job, Corgan, you hypocrite.
So, let's just talk about the songs now. So first off, what I put down on here is Stars, the first one I want to talk about. Definitely has that sound that's trying to be like some sort of like anthem or tribute to Bullet with Butterfly Wings. It's still pretty tight though, even though it's trying really hard to be like their greatest single of all time.
I mean,
it even has that like that.
Yeah.
That marching like tempo that Bullet with Butterfly Wings has. We are stars. And then there's the track United States, which is like this sprawling prog rock inspired track. It's like 9 minutes long.
It kind of exemplifies how the United States used to be in a song metaphor. Like sprawling, vast. It's the U.S. It's our great country we live in.
And there's a lot of changing time signatures. There's a lot of bipolar tempos. And even though Billy singing Revolution over and over again can be a little bit repetitive, I still think that it's a pretty kick-ass song.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those long songs that you don't really feel the time length, and just kind of goes through very effectively, and it feels very fluid.
At this point in time, I honestly think that the band's hit a point where you can listen to any of their songs and you won't really mind it. None of their songs are really that bad. I mean, some of Monument for an Elegy can be repetitive, but besides that, it could be good. Some of Oceania is also repetitive. But yeah, no, it's great.
Then there's the song Never Lost, and it kind of takes a break a little bit from the chaos with the more slower tempo, with the use of some acoustic guitar and electric, and even like you can even hear like a xylophone on this track, which is again something that they've never done before at all. And overall, Zeitgeist, like, it feels to me that it was a good idea for them to take a break from all the ambitious stuff.
Yeah. Honestly, they need... When you first form back again, you shouldn't go off the wall crazy like, let's do a concept album about birth, death, the phoenix, and life. Or something stupid like that. You should just take it slow and wait for the concepts to come in later.
I think a lot of people were like, I don't know, like, maybe they had high expectations when they heard that the Smashing Pumpkins were coming back. And they expected something experimental like their other albums. But for this one, I guess not, and that's why it kind of feels like a black sheep among all the other albums.
Yeah. It was still good, though. People give it too much hate. Hate for Zeitgeist must stop.
Yeah, it's a pretty kick-ass album. Next up, we have... So back in 2009, there was a project that was announced, and since Zeitgeist got a lot of backlash, they were like, okay, let's make something cool again.
Remember when they said we're not going to do that many projects? Yeah, no.
They just said that they're going to take a break from that, and that break is over. Goddamn, that break is indeed over. And
that break is something I didn't listen to, because I did not listen to Teargarden by Kaleidyscope.
And I don't really, blame you, because it's kind of hard to find. I did manually download all of the songs from the first 3 volumes of this project onto my phone.
So, because I didn't listen to this, we're going to do something real special. While Mason talks about Teargarden by Kaleidyscope, I'm going to listen to one of the songs by Teargarden by Kaleidyscope.
With earbuds?
With earbuds in, so we don't get copyright fucked. And then we can talk about it.
Yeah.
Alright, you start talking, I'll go get my headphones.
Alright then, I guess. So, Teargarden by Kaleidyscope. It was this really weird idea for an album where at first, with the first 3 volumes, Billy Corgan would kind of release one song every, 2 months or something, right? So it was kind of like a weird update thing. And this was made back in, 2009, 10-ish. Well, at least when it comes to, the first 3 albums. First 3 volumes, I meant, sorry. And do you know what came out back then?
What?
The webcomic that we should not, name. In this episode. And maybe he was looking at webcomics like that, or update culture in general, and said, hey, in the early 2010s, this was pretty popular. Let's do the same thing. Let's kind of go deep into this update culture thing that's going on right now. And they did just that with the first 3 volumes on Teargarden by Kaleidyscope.
Alright, quick, Mason, what's the best song on Teargarden? And let me listen to it.
I think my favorite has to be Freak.
Where's Freak? Freak. Alright, you keep talking.
So the whole collection starts out with A Song for a Son. And it starts out with being an acoustic ballad. You can hear, it sounds very authentic. It has that same sort of emotion that you would hear off of something like Siamese Dream, right? Before getting into a great guitar solo during the middle, and it mixes in with some Barracu-style instrumentation. And I really love it. It's a good opening track to this sprawling, 44-song project, right? This is a song for a son, and the acoustics, I love it. Next up we have Astral Plane. The lyrics are, they are pretty fucking repetitive, I have to admit. I think that's one thing that he's starting to, unfortunately, get up on here, is the lyrics can get a little bit repetitive on here, but when it comes to the sound of it and the quality of those sounds, it's pretty good. But it's done just right, and it uses a lot of sound effects near the end. It sounds spacious, almost something that you would hear off of some sort of space rock album. A Stitch in Time combines elements of synth pop and acoustic instrumentals, which are pretty surprisingly done pretty well on this one, too. And then there is The Fellowship. The Fellowship uses a lot of chiptune, which I really enjoy. The last time that we heard some chiptune was Elegy Machina, which was all the way back in 2000. This was back in 2010, I believe.
I'm a huge fan of chiptune stuff.
Because he's a gamer, and we're gamers, and we love gamer OSTs.
I'm listening to Freak by Teargarden by Kaleidyscope, and it's really good. Vocals are a little messy, but besides that, I want you to look at the comments. I like this. Hold on, this one's even worse. Life is not a dream when you cannot wake from the dream you wanted.
Wow.
What is that even supposed to mean?
I have no idea.
This is, I'm 82 and this is deep.
Yeah. And Freak, what Kyle is listening to right now, is definitely the heaviest song on the album so far, and is considered the best TBK track ever. Well, at least when it comes to the first 3 volumes on here. And if you want to know what all of these songs have to do with each other, next to Oceania and Monument to an Elegy, which are also part of the whole project, I would say that this whole project is based off of Tarot. And Billy Corgan himself said that as well. But I tried to look through the lyrics, and I had no idea how they would really go on to become tarot cards, or stuff that's from the Fool's Journey. I looked into the Fool's Journey. It's pretty complicated. It was basically this thing where, hey, here's this story that I'm going to tell you to kind of teach you about tarot's basics. And he talked about how each of these albums sort of represented a stage of life. Like, for example, the first stage is childhood, and you think that everything is beautiful and amazing. And then there's the adolescent teenage years, where you don't really know what's going on, your emotions are kind of fucked up, and you're pretty unsatisfied, but you're still content with, hey, maybe, sort of, kind of, things will get better. And then the third stage is that you're kind of a bitter person now, you're an adult, you've seen life, at its very worst, you're a little bit more experienced overall, and you're just not happy anymore. But then the fourth phase, this is something that's very confirming is that the fourth phase, according to him, is that you kind of come to terms that not everything in life has to be so negative. There can be good things in life, and that's what the true definition of maturity is.
It is.
And
being happy.
I try to see all of this stuff.
You could even say that once you start reaching happiness in life, that is when true maturity happens.
I try to see all of these themes in these albums lyrically, and I kind of had trouble. If I had more time, and we didn't want to, like, you know, go on a whole another month on hiatus or something, then I would have definitely tried to find the whole theming around each song, but of course I would not do that because I already did it with Melancholy and Infinite Sadness, with like 3 whole pages of nothing but like describing what each song is about. So overall, the first 3 volumes of Teargarden by Kaleidyscope, it's pretty good. It's pretty experimental. I wouldn't really say that it's better or worse than anything, but it kind of goes back to the thing that they wanted to do. And the next part of Teargarden by Kaleidyscope is Oceania.
And I did listen to Oceania. And let me tell you, love the aesthetic, little repetitive. It's good, not great. Fan of it, I'd place it in low B tier if this was a tier list.
I put it in B tier too, I agree. And this one is actually like my favorite album from like the modern lineup.
It's close. I like Shiny better, but Quasar is probably one of my favorite Pumpkin songs altogether.
And the main difference between the first 3 volumes of Teargarden by Kaleidyscope and Oceania and Monuments to an Elegy is that these are albums within a whole huge album, right?
Yeah.
And the reason why they started releasing just regular-ass albums instead of releasing one track one by one is because, well, first of all, it got very repetitive. It was a little bit it was more of like a quirk than anything. You know, they experimented with the update culture thing that didn't really hype up anybody. So, like, you know what, whatever, let's just put in albums within a huge ass album. And it did counteract with the theme, but Billy Corgan did explain that he was still, he still thought that the full album wasn't a relevant medium anymore, but decided to make a collection of songs that were meant to be listened together. Like, if you listen to Oceania and Monuments to an Elegy, track by track, from beginning to end, it fits in pretty well. But some of the songs on here, some of the songs, you don't really have that same strong, grasp onto it. When it comes to some of the songs by themselves, but when it comes to listening to the albums from beginning to end, it's pretty effective. You can definitely hear that on Oceania.
Oceania is pretty great. It gives you a vibe of, emptiness but vastness. As deep as a puddle, but as vast as an ocean.
Yeah. And this is a lot less heftier than the previous albums. A contrast to the previous album's Zeitgeist. And there's a lot of electronic rock going on here. There's a lot of acoustics, too. Because, again, I think this has to be the first time that they've really done something that's very calm and mature, kind of like a Door, right?
Yeah.
And there's even some prog rock in here too. First of all, the opening track, Quasar, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, Quasar.
Quasar. The opening track, it feels like a comfortable rock tune before getting more weird in the later tracks, to slowly ease the listener. You know, it's pretty straightforward. The same as the last track, Panopticon. What is a Panopticon?
I don't know what a Panopticon
That sounds really cool. That sounds like a made-up magic spell, or a made-up book.
Yes, the Panopticon.
You must travel far from the Earth.
You have to travel
to find the Panopticon.
No, you have to travel the worlds to get the 5 crystals of the elements in order to unlock the Panopticon.
Yes, go on, my fellow adventurers, and find the Panopticon to save the world from destruction or some shit.
From the crystal of Gingle Doof.
Yes, exactly. This one feels a lot more dreamy and heroic sounding than the last track. Violet Rays. This is a favorite of mine. It has to be one of my favorite songs from this entire record. It starts out with some synths, and it sets up the mood perfectly. Like, this definitely sounds like something that you hear in a soundtrack to anything. That's a good thing. In a movie, or a TV show,
or a game or a video game,
or
because we're
something.
gamers.
Or something, and it's just, I love this song. It's really good. And it kind of reminds you of something from Melancholy, but updated in a modern way. Don't you think?
Yeah, I can see that.
Modern, like Violet Rays, it's a good-ass song. The title For My Love Is Winter is pretty fitting, considering how cool and positive the entire song feels, all throughout when it comes to its message and tone, which is something that you don't really see all that often in Smashing Pumpkins music, because again, Oceania, one of the least heaviest albums on here, but
has a really heavy song.
What? Which one is that? Are you talking about Quasar?
Oh, no, I was thinking Monuments, because I had Monuments up.
Oh,
Damn
sorry.
it.
Oh,
sorry.
okay.
We're sorry. It's my fault. My bad.
And then there's Pinwheels. This one right here is interesting. The 8-bit is back.
Yeah.
In the intro.
It may or may not be a reference to the boss in Dark Souls, Pinwheel, who is has a similar sounding theme to the song, and it's really easy.
And this song, when I first heard it, it sounds exactly like a song that you would hear from the aforementioned webcomic that should not be named.
Gamers.
With the gray face paint. Let's just say that.
God, no, the Sharpie.
The Sharpie ink bathtub comic.
Yes.
With the use of like 16-bit electro phone ringer kind of thing going on, before setting into some nice acoustics. 3 in the morning? Yeah, it feels like a 3 in the morning kind of song, you know?
I will listen to it tonight at 3 in the morning.
It feels like a phone ringer, like a ringtone, almost. It also has some singing choir in the background as well. Some slight violin could be heard in the background. It's a great song. I like it. Next up is the Chimera.
Chimera.
Yeah, the Chimera. Whatever.
It's Chimera.
Yeah. This one is a lot more faster paced.
Reminds me of the Chimeras from that little boy game.
Oh, are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Earthbound.
Oh, Earthbound.
Mommy 3.
Mommy the Third. Is it because of the name?
Yes.
That's it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. And this one right here, again, it's just like some that you hear from the earlier work, like Siamese Dream, but with a modern twist. And that's why this is my favorite album from their modern catalog. And Wildflower, the closing track on here, it's using nothing but lullaby-like orchestral instruments during the whole track until near the end, where we could hear a final electric guitar riff before closing things off like a nice little bow. And so yeah, it's basically like a classic Smashing Pumpkins record, but with a twist. With a modern twist.
Ooh, what a twist!
Yeah. And then
next up we have an album that Mason kind of disliked for a while, but gave a second try, and ended up really enjoying it.
Yeah, it actually kind of grew on me a little bit.
We have Monuments for an Elegy, which is the one that I was talking about earlier that actually does have a pretty heavy song. Which is One and All, which is one of my favorite Smashing Pumpkins songs of all time. And I really think that it's like one of the heavier songs that you would hear on Melancholy, but like, again, with a twist. They gave it different instrumentals. I think in the background there's some electronic beats, but it's overall electric guitar and vocals from Billy. What do you think of this album?
This album right here, at first I didn't really like it as much, maybe because it kind of felt a bit cheesy at first, with all the synths that felt like a weird, cheesy 80s new wave album.
Yeah.
But I got used to it after a while, after listening to it a few more times. And it's more of a pop rock, synth pop filled album, but it still has some guitars in there. But the thing that is interesting to me is that only 2 members of Smashing Pumpkins worked on this, which was Billy Corgan and Jeff Schroeder, who was one of the new people for Smashing Pumpkins, who has been around ever since Zeitgeist.
Everybody else left, though.
For some reason, I don't know why. So you can now already see that most of the band members are kind of leaving and going up until there's only 2 people left, right?
Yeah.
But they're still going on. They're still trudging through the mud. And I think Tiberius was the lead single, right?
Yeah.
So Tiberius starts off with a piano intro before going into a blend of synths and some great guitar work. And it switches between those 2 styles all throughout.
I'm not the biggest fan of Tiberius, but I can appreciate it.
Another single on here is Run to Me. This one is a good example of a song with many electronic rock elements with some heavy-ass percussion. Like, seriously, it is booming. Like, there's a reason why it's called Run to Me, because it's like, it's energetic. Like, seriously, the percussion has to be like the best part of this entire song. It is booming, like, like the percussion.
Yeah.
Like, those big ass drums? It sounds like he's banging on that.
Yeah, like a gong?
Yeah.
Like if a gong wasn't
No,
metallic?
Yeah, definitely. I have no idea what those big drums are called.
I just call them big bongos.
Yeah.
But
Drum and fife. This one has this, sweet, flute instrumentation going in there, throughout with some hints of synth in the background, of course. I love the, flute solos on here.
Yeah.
It feels so refreshing, man. It's so good.
It's back to the experimental pumpkins that we love.
I mean, Oceania was still pretty experimental, but kind of did the same thing with, mixing in stuff from their earlier work with newer stuff.
It was slightly like Zeitgeist, but this is completely different sound. Monuments.
Yeah. And I don't really mind this album being very synthy anymore. And that one song that is extremely new wave and extremely sounds like 80s is Dorian, which obviously has that new wave influence.
Yeah.
Seriously, it smells like the 80s around here.
It does. It actually smells pretty shitty in this closet.
Because it's filled with your dirty underwear.
It is filled with my dirty underwear.
What are your favorite songs on here? Because I know that you
definitely like One and All and Anti-Hero. Those are some songs I really like.
What do you like about Anti-Hero?
I like the riff, and I think the drumming is more intricate than some of their other songs.
Oh, definitely. Which brings us to
my second favorite Smashing Pumpkins album,
Shiny and Oh So Bright Volume 1, which came out just last year.
I really like this album. Can I talk about this album?
Yeah, sure.
So, this album starts out with a okay track. Knights of Malta. It's okay.
Wah, 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 wah.
It's like the spinning cockroach meme.
This is so, cheesy. It's good, but it's also, really fucking cheesy.
But after
Knights of Malta?
But, yeah, I don't want to stay on Knights of Malta. It goes on to probably my second favorite track on my second favorite album. Shine like a diamond, dive like a pelican.
Silvery Sometimes, yes!
I love this song.
Even though it's just 1979, with the same tempo and time signature.
I think it's better.
You think it's better?
I think it's better in my opinion, because I think it gives more of a positive outlook. 1979 was a young teenager crawling out of their bed once every 10 years to go to a concert or something. This gives me the feeling of someone finally hitting their stride. Someone who's looking at the world way more positively. And I think that Billy must have better people around him, because he's definitely doing more positive stuff now. And then it goes into Travels. Now, Travels is pretty light, but it's light in a good way. I really like the vocals on this, and the small lyrics that happen. It's kind of short, but I like it. And then it goes into the heavier.
Ooh,
the heavier.
Solera.
Yeah, this this is heavier than the last three.
This definitely reminds me of Geek USA.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like, nothing in my body and my mind. Like, it's really, like,
Yeah.
thrashy a little bit, don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
And how the drums kick in. Seriously, like, it's a pretty good song overall.
Now,
and, like, a perfect lead single for this.
I like the rest of this album, but I think Silvery Sometimes Travels and Solara mesh together perfectly. It's really good. What do you have to say about this album?
And Alienation is one other song that I like.
Oh, Alienation's good.
And it's one of those tracks that feel like a great marching anthem, making the use of a lot of heavy percussion and piano to its advantage very smoothly. But overall, Shining Oh So Bright, I do have to admit, the only problem I have with it is that the production feels a bit too glossy at times.
Yeah,
it feels a bit too overproduced. I think that's because Rick Rubin worked on this as producer. And it kind of has not so great reputation nowadays, making albums feel way too glossy.
Yeah, still, I like it. And it's a closing to the Smashing Pumpkins. What are they going to do next? Who knows?
And if you're wondering why there's going to be, like, certain volumes for Shining Oh So Bright, it's because they're working on a new series called Shining Oh So Bright. And this is when almost every single Smashing Pumpkins member comes back together. Like Chimby Amberlin, like James Ira, and of course there's Schroeder. They all come back together. Like, last time they've been like this together was, like, fucking Sheena.
Part 2, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, it feels like an actual reunion.
And it makes the future of this band pretty bright. Shiny and oh so bright.
And it also has the subtitle, No Past, No Future, No Sun.
Yeah.
It sounds kind of edgy, but okay.
I also really like the album art on it. It looks good.
Yeah, it looks really cool. It kind of has that, like...
refracted light,
futuristic 1920s metropolis sort of vibe to it.
It's kind of like if a weird Metropolis art piece used the move rock polish in Pokemon. You know, where all the lines draw over.
Yeah.
I really like the look of it.
So that was Smashing Pumpkins.
I think that they're probably one of my favorite bands we've covered. They're Foo Fighters tier. They're great. I like it.
Yeah, they're experimental, they're ambitious, they're one of the best, like, rock bands of the 90s.
Now, we have had a weird uploading schedule. We don't know what's coming next, what might come next. We don't want to give any promises, but we will say,
Wait, don't tell them what the episode is.
I said I wouldn't.
Okay.
We will try to upload more frequently. Christmas break's coming up really soon, and we can get a lot done over Christmas break.
And speaking of breaks, I also just want to say Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes.
We're recording this today right before Thanksgiving.
Get it? Pumpkins.
Yeah. It's autumn, and autumn means pumpkins. Pumpkins are associated with autumn. Ha ha. You know, so yeah, Happy Thanksgiving, guys, if you're in America, of course. If you're, like, in Canada or something, that's fine, too. And I also want to shout out to the person who really helped me out with this. Like, not personally, but, like, an influence on how I looked at the Pumpkins albums a lot more positively.
Another podcast.
And their name is, I think his name is Alex from Podcast Now. I just want to give a quick shout out to him. Really love his stuff. He did his own little series about every single Smashing Pumpkins album. He was a huge influence on this episode in particular. So thanks, Alex, for inspiring us to do an episode on the Smashing Pumpkins. So yeah, we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Bye!